Support the Amigos podcast on Patreon or PayPal and receive cool perks and rad swag. Visit our page at everythingamiga.com/support.
Amiga, the first personal computer that gives you a creative edge.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron. What's up,
today,
bud?
Aaron, we're going to be talking about Bill's Tomato game.
Man, Bill does it all. He does it all.
I'm going to be referring to it as Tomato for the duration of the episode, out of deference to our British listeners.
I see.
This one's for you guys.
And
Tomato.
To make up for that, for our American and more importantly West Virginian listeners, I'll call them maters. I'll call them maters.
Now, Aaron, if there's one thing I know about you, you're a man of the soil.
That's
you
of the
are.
soil.
Yes. Tell me about your gardening experience. I mean, I know you've got a little plot of land in your backyard that you tend lovingly. Tell me about some things that you've grown in the past.
You know, I grew up during the Reagan administration, Boat, and so, of course, one of the mainstays of the Reagan administration was his love. Well, three things really. Astrology. You got to have that.
Yeah.
You got to have a belief in UFOs. All right. And thirdly, you got to have a desire to continuously gulp down jelly beans, Boat.
Right.
And so what I like to do is I get me a handful, usually black and reds, and plant those back there every year, and get my jelly bean. Wait a minute, no, I don't know how to farm, Boat. You know that. The hell are you talking about? Work the soil. Listen, I don't know how to farm. I can't grow nothing, man. I grow weeds. That's it. So no, I don't know jack squat about tending the earth. What about you?
You know, gardening is one of those things that I've always liked the idea of, but it turns out the gardening is hard. You've got to be disciplined. You've got to get down on your hands and knees. You got to dig around in the soil. Yeah. I've spent many an afternoon watching my wife work in the garden, and I'll tell you this: I want no part of it. It's very difficult.
Yeah, I know. Eep grew up on like a farm, didn't she, Bode?
She did. She grew up. Her parents are farmers. They own a farm to this day. They own orchards. They grow tons of different vegetables, and she's carried that with her here to Hurricane. We have she grows peppers and radishes and all kinds of crazy things out in the yard. She's got quite the green thumb. I prefer to have, the British country garden where you walk out there and you sort of clip a couple, buds off with some pruning shears, and then you just return back inside to hit the booze. That's the way I like.
That's how they do it over there?
That's how they do it.
I had no idea.
I've seen tons of episodes of Masterpiece, Aaron. I know how this works. Is that what it is?
You're a masterpiece of something, Boat. But anyways, no, everyone farmed when I was a kid. Every house had a little garden in front of it that they would put tomatoes. So my mom and dad still occasionally will grow stuff out in their porch, But,
why do you think? Why do you think that went away? What do you think stopped people's desire to grow their own food?
Grocery stores mostly, and laziness.
There were no grocery stores when you were growing up.
No, well, when my parents were growing up, and your parents and grandparents, they were not nearly as prevalent. So I mean, in terms of listen, you're out in the sticks. Do you want to drive 50 miles to the store? You're going to make your own. Plus, there was a lot more canning going on. Remember canning?
That's true. Canning was a big thing.
Have you ever canned?
No. My mom is a big canner. She likes to can, various vegetables and things. And to be honest with you, I was never a big vegetable eater. I was never a person of the vegetable. I know this shocks you.
I literally can't believe it.
But the thought of canned green beans still sends shivers down my spine to this day.
I try. I eat some vegetables, but we used to. My grandma and all of her daughters would get together and some of her neighbors, and they would have the big canning parties, and they'd put away the preserves and all the canned vegetables stuff. And the funny thing is, I'll never forget this because my grandma and grandpa because they lived out in the sticks, they had one of these rickety old garages. It looked like it was like a tobacco barn, but it was smaller, like a garage. Like they cut the top off of it. They may have, and it was dirty and full of critters and stuff. But that's where you kept your preserves. And I always thought it was funny that you store your food in the filthiest conceivable spot on the entire planet. It's like, let's put our food here in this crap
But that's
hole.
the thing, because when it's canned, it's the cleanest it can ever be. There's nothing cleaner than canned food, because you got to put it through you got to boil it, and you got to put it through all the different,
it's like
salting
magic to me. I don't know how they do any of that stuff. Like, here's something else that always blew my mind. This is slightly off subject. Making your own jellos and stuff. You ever see anybody do that weird stuff? That's another weird thing.
Making Jello?
Yeah, the country folk have all these weird. Listen, they're not too far removed from the old cauldron. You can see where that crap came from. And it is sort of like witchcraft, but in actuality, it's normal, everyday things, and we're dumb. That's a sad.
Yeah, and it's how people survive the winter before electricity, which we could not do for 5 seconds. Yeah, we would die just right off the bat.
If we lose electricity, we're all screwed. We're gonna be huddled together in mass, staring at the computer screen in vain, wondering what went wrong.
Just waiting for the end to come.
This is sort of depressing.
Speaking of waiting for the end to come, why don't we move along?
What a segue. While you're waiting for your death, here's some news. Very good, folks.
Where you want to go to first, Aaron? You want to head over to everythingamiga.com to see what's been kicking around on that site?
You can see I'm looking up for it right now, and lo and behold, it's come to pass. Bam. Everythingamiga.com. We had some sweet action this week on everythingamiga.com. Our good buddy, master writer, published genius, Rob Flacco here is back. He's back, Boat. And he's talking about a game that I've always been amused by in an article he has entitled All That Blitters, Battle Chess. What do you think about this one?
So All the Blitters is Rob's ongoing Amiga series that we're so grateful that he's put pen to paper, as it were, on everythingamiga.com. This week's game, he's talking about Battle Chess, which it's so funny because everything that he writes about I can identify with. I learned how to play chess growing up. I was never really great at it, but when you're playing chess when you're a kid, it's not about how good you are. It's just about how good everybody else is compared to you. So if I could get by and not lose every single game against everybody I played, I thought that I was pretty good, when in fact I'm completely horrible. Yeah. But when I first started playing chess computer games, I was enamored with Battle Chess. Now, this is not a game that I ever owned in my own home. Battle Chess was always a game that was at school. We had some old, I think that they were 386s or maybe early 486 PCs that we got sometime in the very early 90s, maybe 91 or 92. And I remember Battle Chess being on these computers and being blown away by the graphics. It looked so good.
Oh, yeah.
And then playing Battle Chess, the bloom sort of fell off the rose pretty quick for me, just like it did for Flack, because the animations, while fantastic and cool at first, become super, super long and super boring once you've seen them all a million times. Now, Aaron, were you a fan of Battle Chess?
Well, I'll tell you, when I was a younger Aaron, before in the pre-Battle Chess days, like chess was sort of a big deal that you could play this on a computer. It was chess, man, because the computer was good. And so I'm trying to think of some of the old chess games I played. It seems like something like Sargon or something. I don't know, but this game came along, and this was firmly straight directed at a guy like me who wasn't a big chess guy, but I did like cartoon violence. That was great. And so, I did what everyone else did. You had to go through and see every conceivable death in Battle Chess, some of which are difficult to see, like a king taking a king, stuff like that. It was always fun to set those up. Now, at the time, I was not the biggest fan of the old chess boat. Now, the Murray Head album.
No, you were not. It was your brother that was on the chess team, right?
Well, believe it or not, I was in the chess club.
Oh, you were also in the chess club.
Well, I quit it after early on. I'm not real fond of chess, and the main reason I'm not fond of it is because it makes me nervous. Real nervous.
It's like a knife fight in a phone booth, man.
Maybe so. I never thought of it that way. But you have to playing stuff 3-4 moves ahead, and literally that's the exact opposite of the way I live my life. Like, trust me, in my life, the king's taking the other king all the time. It's just a madhouse out there. And so, this was just, I did enjoy watching the antics of it. I knew you could play, like, computer to computer, but you're right. Watching this thing load off disk, for example, was, you could watch the clock tick. It was just slow as heck. It's like, oh, God. Even if you play this today, it's still not fast. But it was pretty. And they went on to make some sequels to this, which I thought were garbage. Chinese chess and some other stuff. It's some kind of space version. And I remember that Star Wars ripped off Battle Chess with like a Star Wars version. Remember that one?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
I remember seeing pictures of that in magazines and thinking, man, I bet that's just as lame as the because I mean, at least with Battle Chess, you got some real visceral violence. You know, nobody wants to see Picard shoot somebody with a phaser or the lame double axe handle when he takes the bishop. Who's the bishop anyway in Star Trek chess?
No, I said Star Wars chess, Bo. Just a Picard in there. It's Star Wars chess. Although they probably did have a Star Trek chess.
I'm sure they had a Star Trek chess. Yeah. It's a much more cerebral game than Star Wars.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Same amount of cartoon violence. But yeah, this one we got played a lot. And I'm sure Interplay made stacks and stacks of wad off of this particular game. So there you go. Good stuff.
That's going to do it for everything on everythingamiga.com, but that's not the only thing that's been going on our site this week. We've had lots of action over on the YouTube channel, haven't we, Aaron?
Correct. Well, I'd say some moderate amounts of action, Bo, on the YouTube channel.
Don't get too excited.
It's been huge, but off the charts. So let's start with the interesting episode of ARG Presents we did last week. Me and the Brent were tasked with playing games on the MSX2, the sequel to the MSX1. Double as good, not really, but we did find a couple MSX2 exclusives to play. Brent played Pumpkin Adventure 3, stupidly, I might add, and I picked a game called Usos, which the pronunciation is beyond me, but we're gonna call it that. I have to say, Usos, which is a Konami game, was a very interesting game.
I thought that one was pretty fascinating.
Yeah, it really. This is a series that didn't go anywhere, but I mean, it's not for lack of trying. It's a pretty darn good game. On the other hand, Pumpkin Adventure 3, that's garbage. I hated that game.
Listen, you do not like Japanese role-playing games.
That's true.
So this could have been, now by all accounts, this is probably not the best example of a Japanese role-playing game, but the deck was stacked against you from this one from the beginning.
This thing was written by a 6-year-old. I mean, it was the dialogue in it was just the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Battle Chess had better dialogue than this did. So if you want to check us out on ARG, there you go. And this week, this is sort of relevant to this show, Boat. If you want to join us Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, this week the Wheel has tasked us with a special topic. It will be Atari ST versus Amiga. Where
another famous battle episode.
That's we only had one, so this will be hopefully it'll be famous. But my brother has doomed the ST because he'll be representing the ST, and I'll be holding up the banner for the good old Amiga, and I'm going to stomp a mud hole in him and walk it dry, Boat, as they say.
I don't like that phrase.
You'll get used to it, my friend. Next on the docket, Boat, you out of nowhere, bam, BMX. You want to talk about this thing?
Yeah, so I decided during my early stage recovery period to record a couple of our Sinclair videos, our Sinclair solo videos. And, I pulled a couple tapes off the shelf. These were the first two that I found. They were both, the first one is a BMX Simulator. We're going to have another one next week. BMX Simulator is a simple game. It's a simple mechanic. You are rolling around different tracks, racing against a computer opponent. This is it's a fun little game. Just like all these videos, I look at the packaging. We talk about all the text and stuff. I will say that it's a little bit difficult for me to breathe during this video. You'll hear me sort of become winded as I try and talk. I apologize for that. Like I said, I was still in my early stages of recovery at that time. So, but if you want to watch me play some BMX Simulator on the ZX Spectrum, check it out.
It looks like sort of like you're playing BMX as on like the moon or Mars or something with that the color scheme they've got going on there. And suddenly I'm hungry for a hot dog. I can't figure that out. Looks good, Boatster. I like how you're picking those tapes out. You know, that was always a thing of yours. I got to play all these things, and so you're putting your money where your mouth is.
One by one, I'm doing it.
You know, I had a wacky night last Friday, Boat. We had another live stream over on everythingamiga.com. Not true, it was on Twitch, on our Twitch channel. And so I thought, let's just play some random crap. So I ended up playing the goofiest crap I've ever seen. Just loads and loads of goofy crap, including the game that Flack did his show on a while back, ARG. We gave that a whirl. We played some One Must Fall, just a bunch of crazy stuff. So if you want to see a couple hours of just some people get wacky, pop on over and check that out. I've entitled this one Amigo Aaron's Wacky Cavalcade of Wackiness, Boat. I got to throw a lot of that stuff in there. Boat, here it is. You've released it. It's out. It's Ask the Amigos, part 1 of 2 for November, Boat, where we're asked the pivotal questions that affect our everyday lives. What do you think of this particular episode of Ask the Amigos?
I honestly cannot remember any of the questions, and I'm sure that we did a fantastic job.
Let me just say that my responses were brilliant, well thought out. Yours, they're okay.
That sounds about right.
So if you want to hear me intellectually pound Boat in the ground, here it is. I'm in a mood just to... I come across like a bully today. I'm going to beat everybody up, Boat. And you're 6, so you're getting a double.
Just don't mention that mud hole thing again.
And walk it dry. Now, this is something, you talk about coming from out of nowhere. This one came from out of nowhere, didn't it, Boatster?
It did.
Bam. That's our boy, the Flack. Talk about this one, Boatster.
So Flack is a big fan of Rogue. He's been playing Rogue for like 35 years. And because he's off, Sprite Castle is off this week, it's always, I sort of fly my own personal flag at half-mast every time Sprite Castle is off for the week.
What's on your personal flag, if I may ask? What is the banner on that flag?
Mudhole.
Carry on.
Rob takes us through playing Rogue, and he does this in a way because a lot of people, they're like, I know what Rogue is, but a lot of people don't, because Rogue is just not a game that people play much anymore. There's a whole genre of Rogue-like games out there that take concepts of Rogue, procedural generation, top-down viewpoints, and stuff like that. But Rob takes us all the way back. It's also interesting because he's playing the Steam version. I guess there is a new version that's been released for Steam, and it's super cheap. It's like $3 or something like that. So he takes us through that, and I enjoyed watching this video because he talks about Rogue from a beginner's perspective, and I'm no Rogue pro. I've been known to play a roguelike now and again, but I really enjoyed the way that he broke down the different commands. He talks about some tips on how you can control monster movement to sort of maximize your, to minimize the amount of food that you're eating, because every action you take, matters. It's funny. I hate first-person dungeon crawlers. I hate them. To me, it's the absolute.
They're your JRPGs.
Worst. Yeah, it's the worst genre that's ever been created. However, I love roguelikes. And I spent some time thinking about it. I was like, why do I love roguelikes, but I hate dungeon crawlers? Because ostensibly they're the same game. You're rolling around in a dungeon, you're getting treasure, you're killing enemies, and you're getting lost. That's what it is. But to me, I think that the big difference is the viewpoint. I am a person that can deal with only very small amounts of frustration when I play a game. And when you're playing a first-person frame by frame dungeon crawler, the frustration meter is off the charts from the get-go, unless you're making a map, because you're running into the same stupid walls, you're getting lost, you're turned around, you don't know where you are, everything looks exactly the same. On a dungeon in a game like Rogue, you can see the action from above, so you immediately know where you are, you know where you're going. And that, I guess, that's the big difference. That's the thing that makes it different to me, is the viewpoint. I like being able to have the control of being able to see the entire floor where I am, and not just seeing what's directly in front of me. Plus the fact, any game that you have to make a map, I'm throwing it in the garbage. I mean, those days are over.
But you're no longer with it, my friend, when it comes to these RPGs. Back in the day, map making was part of the joyous experience of playing one of these games. You had to get in and map that sucker out, get you some grid paper. You know, you're not an old role player like I am, and I mean RPG style role playing. And back in those days, you gotta have the grid paper to play the game. You know.
Do you really though? Do you really, to have a good role playing experience? Do you have to be taking out role? That doesn't sound like the DM I know.
Well, it is. It's the exact DM you know. It's just
no,
that
it's not.
Things have changed.
We played years. We played years of campaigns, and you never once were like, "Okay, guys, take out your map paper."
Well, listen, the proper way to play is with grid paper and a
Don't
big
give me
thing.
the proper way
It's
to
true.
play. I want to play the fun
Also,
one.
you gotta have those lead miniatures that just because you're handling those while you're eating your Cheetos and your pizza. So you got everyone at the table got lead poisoning. Bam. That's the RPG way right there. Now they've computerized it and stuff, so you don't have to have that crap. You can have a little map on your monitor and stuff, but that's part of it. And RPGs and computer games have all evolved in the same way. Now they provide the map. You know, they hold your hand. But in the old days, you had to be a man, do it yourself, Bo. There's nothing wrong with that, I think. But yeah, I agree with you. I like the Rogue. I used to play the Rogue games myself back in the day, and I thought they were a lot of fun. So there you go. So good stuff. And we should also mention, Bo-Daroo, that our bud, speaking of releases this week, the boys over at Pixel Gaiden have their show out now, and Rob's got, which is Pixel Gaiden. And of course, Rob's shows are Sprite Castle and You Don't Know Flack, and I believe he just released a new edition of You Don't Know Flack like today. And I believe it's on puppets. So that's, you know, I've got friends that are definitely afraid of puppets, marionettes, Muppets, and any sort of like inanimate dummy. So, which always amused me. Have you ever had any problem with those things, like in your real life?
I've got a Muppet sitting across the room from me right now. I love puppets.
You sort of sound like a Muppet in a weird way.
People have told me that before. People think I'm very Muppet-like in my actions.
You are. I agree. I agree with that. Maybe one of those Muppet knockoffs. You know, I don't know what those are called. But there you go, Boat. That's your YouTube action this week. Oh, you probably want to mention something about your This Week in Retro while we're here.
Yeah, This Week in Retro is off this week. We made the decision to not record a show this week so I could fully recover from the COVID. But we are going to be back and better than ever with a show next week. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back. This Week in Retro off for this week.
Good call, Boat.
That's it. Let's move on, Aaron.
Yeah. News time, Boat. It's news time. You usually, where's the clarion call for the news, Boat? Let's hear it in your golden tone.
Meow, 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 meow.
Train.
That's it. All right. So, Aaron, we got 3 short stories today in the Amiga news. The first one is that there is a new release. We've covered this for several weeks before, but the game has finally been released. Wiz Quest for the Magic Lantern. This one is a side-scrolling platformer featuring a character that would not be he would not be foreign to the nightmares of your friends who fear marionettes and puppets. This guy is one disturbing-looking wizard.
His body moves in a totally disjointed way. Like it's like that. Yeah. That is bizarre. I like it, but it's weird looking, man.
It is weird looking. This game is AGA only, as you can tell by the gradients. It's gradiented out the wazoo.
Listen, it looks like $1 million, Bode. What are you talking?
It does look. It's graphically impressive. This is one of these games that looks like a collectathon platformer.
Yeah.
You've got lots of different things going on. But it doesn't look too manic, which I like. I watched some of this Let's Play video from Per Ola Eriksson, and it looks pretty good. It is available for purchase. I believe that you can get the download-only version for as little as $10, and the physical version probably will run you about twice as much. Pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
For a new Amiga release these days. If you do have a chance to check this out, anybody, you want to leave us a comment in the YouTube comments, let us know, because I want to know what you think.
Yeah, it looks nutty. Let's just put it that way. Also, the background stuff looked pretty cool. I'll be interested to hear how the as the reviews trickle in on what they think of this one, but it looks pretty good, though, my friend.
Yeah, yeah. We've got a new video from our buddy 10-Minute Amiga Retrocast this week. This week, Aaron, he's taken a look at the ultimate floppy emulator from one of our favorite purveyors of Amiga hardware, Edu Arena, maker
Yeah.
of the Unamiga, among many other things.
Yeah.
So what Doug does is he basically puts this thing through its paces. He connects it up to his Amiga. I think it's an Amiga 2000.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, his visage just shocked me
It's
to the
right
core.
there, man. He's a drop dead handsome man.
Yeah, boy.
Listen, Doug, I think
Okay.
Doug embodies the Amiga. I really do. When I see
does,
Doug,
sort of.
has there ever been a bigger? Him and Bill are like they should be like, if we had a vice president and president of Amiga, I'd put them right there at the top. You know what I'm saying? They look like that's a 1-2 punch. You got to vote for those two.
It is a 1-2 punch.
You know.
So, and basically what this comes down to is that if you want a thing for games, you know, get a GoTech. You're not gonna be well served by this device. But if you're somebody like Tenmark and actually use your Amiga for productivity, if you're transferring files between multiple Amigas and you can't, obviously a GoTech is more of a permanent solution. This thing you can plug in and plug out. It's almost like having a flash drive that interacts with your floppy port on your Amiga. It's basically what it is.
Well,
this is the way to go.
This thing's actually effectively a GoTech. Okay.
It's the
what
same
you
thing.
got
It's just
here-
not a permanent solution.
Well, it can be. Do you see that long connector on the right there that he's not pointing at, that big black connector?
Mm-hmm.
That can hook directly into the Amiga's floppy drive,
Sure.
line. And so this could be an internal GoTech or an external. That's the brilliance of it.
Yeah.
It's a genius product, but he does go over some of the shortcomings, which is not a shortcoming from Edu. It's just it's the way it is. He's got this thing stuck in the back of his 2000. Well, the problem is, of course, luckily for him, he's got his 2000 spun into his cubby backwards, which is, he does that for reasons of using all the connectors and stuff. But if you're your average person, you can't see what's going on back there. It's shoved into the back slot. And so he comes up with many cunning plans, and the sketchy tech in me gave that double thumbs up for all. Well, that's another thing I like about Doug. He'll get sketchy on you, and he'll come up with a bunch of crazy
He's not
stuff.
afraid.
But
He's
yeah,
not
this
afraid.
is a neat product. If you're looking for something that, like, for example, if you want to simulate a second drive, if you're one of those lucky people that's got one of those gimmicks that internally lets you switch which drive is drive 0, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can plug this in the back, you're in. You can do that. So there's a lot of uses for this thing. It's very clever. And, of course, these are the kind of products that come out of the labs over in Spain with Edu. I should mention, speaking of him, he has shipped the little hat for the Unamigas. At least I got my email confirmation. So hopefully in a few weeks I'll be able to show that off.
That's going to give you ZX Spectrum Next capabilities,
Yeah,
right?
yes.
ES capabilities. You want to be able to do it all.
Yeah,
man.
it should be ZX Next, MSX,
Mm.
and C64 and NES has been added to
Yeah.
the mix as well. So that's a pretty good deal for a little gimmick. And I looked over the instructions to make that work. I'm gonna need a Doug-like level. I'm gonna have to make some calls, Boat, because I looked at this, and even by my sketchy standards, I'm like, holy crap, what is all this craziness? But I'll figure it out. You know me. But yeah, good stuff. Doug said it. Also, Doug did mention that they are the new version of this thing. He said has a rotary dial switch available, which I've got one of those on one of my GoTechs, and those things are great. So I strongly recommend that. It's good stuff.
Sweet, awesome, man. All right, and finally, our final video of the day, Aaron. This is a really, really special video. This is called the Amiga Show.
This came out of nowhere, Boat. I'd never heard of this thing.
This comes to us from Anthony Jarvis, long-term supporter of Amigos, long-term fan of the show. I've had a chance to meet Anthony at Amiga Ireland. Heck of a nice guy, and this is his Amiga Show. This is the Amiga Show. This is the only video I know of that is like this on YouTube. Okay. What Anthony has done is he's created a half-hour special, entirely recorded, produced, and made with an Amiga. So all of this that you see before you was created with an Amiga. And what it is it's basically like a video magazine. It's almost like a cover tape that you might get, like a cover VHS tape with a magazine. And it's go ahead,
yes,
man.
that is what it reminded me of. It's like when you used to get those demo tapes. Remember, you probably remember, but back in the day, New Tech had this like sizzle reel. You could get it like your local Amiga retailer, and but this has the feel of something like that, the opening and stuff, the graphics in it.
Yeah.
And I love it. I just love it.
I can't overstate the feel of this thing. This is not something that you're going to want to watch while you've got something else going on. This isn't something like an LGR video that you want to have on in the background. What you want to do is you want to pour yourself a cold drink. You want to settle in and give this thing your full and undivided attention, because this is, Anthony has spent so much time fully scripting this out. The commentary is brilliant. It's so laid back and intelligent. I mean, it's almost like a time capsule from another era, back before you needed to have, 5-second cuts and background music and stuff. This is just a very well done, informative video that takes you back to the launch of the Amiga. And what's great about it is that once he gets done talking to you about a particular utility or program, then he uses it himself, and he's like, let's check this thing out. And then it cuts away to him using it. He talks about, Andy Warhol painting Debbie Harry, and then he's like, well, let's try it ourselves. And so he captures the video himself using the Amiga. Again, I can't oversell the fact on how cool it is that everything that you see in this video was made with the Amiga. It's so good. And the good news is that Anthony plans on making about one of these every month. So we have something to look forward to. This is going to be one in an ongoing series. So make sure that you subscribe to his channel. The name of the channel, I believe, is just called The Amiga Show. Isn't that right, Aaron?
Let's look, shall we? It is The Amiga Show. Yeah. He's also on Instagram, Twitter, the usual spots. First of all, listen, Anthony's always been very nice to us. But I mean, I'll be honest. If he had to put something out and I didn't think it was that good, I'd be like, it's okay. We'd probably mention it. I think this is great, and it's not just because of the feel of it. He actually does stuff in the video that you don't normally would see. In his game reviews, he does a couple of games that they're different than what you normally would see.
They are. He talks about games that, first of all, you wouldn't normally hear. Like the first game that he talks about is a really, really incredibly deep game, and it's not easy to understand.
It's old too.
And it's one, as we talked about before, the Amiga wasn't exactly bursting with games upon release. I really enjoyed the fact that he took the time to explain this game that, I mean, he could have glossed over in 5 minutes. He really gives it its time of day. It's really well done.
So great, congratulations. And we've mentioned we've got so many talented people that are buddies of ours in Discord and stuff. And several of them put together these videos. Of course, we mention Rob and Pixel Gaiden guys all the time, but or great streams. We've got so many great streamers in the group. I told Bode earlier when we talked this sort of reminded me of what Kate Fox is doing with her Macintosh Librarian videos. Just stuff that takes, we were talking earlier. Me and Bode knocked these videos out. We just let the dice roll. These are people that have talent and skill. They sit down and plan and do special effects, and they look professional grade. Doug's another one that does this great stuff. Doug's the only person I know that's using an actual Amiga for some of his stuff. And so I salute anyone that's got the jack, because God knows me and you had nothing but trouble over the years, Boat, when we brought the actual Amiga into play, and we haven't tried anything half as ambitious as this stuff. So salute to you. And for right out of the gate, you hit a home run, man. I enjoyed this. I watched it all, and it was great. Great stuff, Boat. So there you go.
All right. And that's going to wrap it up with this week's edition of Amiga News. The Gamble train is pulling away from the station, and the produce train is pulling up, Aaron. Let's talk about Bill's Tomato Game.
The produce train. I guess, yeah.
I love the produce train.
It works. I'll buy what you're selling there. Now, Bo, I know when we streamed a while back and stumbled onto this game, had you ever played this one before?
No, never heard of it.
Oh, great. Okay, well, there's a little something for you then there. So, we're talking about Bill's Tomato Game, or Mater Game, for you West Virginians, released in the year of our Lord, 1992. Believe it or not, Psygnosis put this one out, Boat.
Yeah.
Not a Psygnosis-like game, although it does share a lot of the qualities of a Psygnosis game in terms of a nice intro and music and whatnot, and packaging. It's a one-player puzzler, I guess would be the easiest way to call it. This was a game that was coded by a fellow named Bill Pullen. He was responsible. He didn't do much on the Amiga, Aqua Venture, and he also did the Star Wars Empire Strikes Back game, which actually I like. The graphics were done by a fellow named Gary Burley. And the other graphics fellow was a guy named Lee Westcott, who worked on Walker, which I think is great. And the music was done by Mike Clark. Now, him we do know. He's done Wiz and Liz, Last Ninja 2, Hired Guns.
We know Mike very well.
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
part of the Amigos interview
Yeah,
series.
yeah. And this is, of course, an ECS OCS release. Now, before we get too deep into the game, I wanted to mention something I thought was kind of neat, and then we'll come back to it later. This game, when I looked into it, Wiki has this listed as a game that is released for the Amiga and the Atari ST. Now, as you know, Boat, the Atari ST is not my bag, but I looked long and hard, and I can't find any evidence that this was ever released for the ST.
Really?
I find there's no video, there's no boxes. I've seen other people asking if there's a version of this for the ST. So I think this is one of those classic gimmicks where someone just put that on the wiki and then everyone on Earth picked it up, because I can't find any evidence of it. Now, one thing a lot of people don't know is this game was produced and almost released for the Mega Drive. There is just recently, not too recently, but within the past 3 years, someone had the production prototype board for this game and sold it on eBay. I think they sold it for £1,000, and the ROMs were subsequently dumped and then released. So you can actually buy this unreleased prototype game for your Mega Drive, if that's your bag. And we'll have a look at that a little bit later. So what is this game? It's an interesting. The opening for this is unusual, I guess, to say the least. It starts off with a farmer loading a truck with tomatoes, and there's a big load of these things, and you actually are following along in the back of the truck with the tomatoes, and there are a boy and girl tomato that are the only ones there that are sort of sentient, I guess, and they look around and they're like, screw this, and as the truck is driving through town, they jump out the back of the truck and kind of bounce off. I will say this, the intro is great. The music's great, and as the truck drives to the city, I'm sure as I'm sitting here, you could even see the developers up in a I'm pretty sure that's them up in a window playing games as the truck drives by, which I thought was a nice touch. And the city looks nice, very almost like a Three Stooges, the way they drew it, real beautifully.
Yeah, I agree.
And is that what you got too? That feeling?
I got that same feeling. It's funny that you thought about Three Stooges.
Yeah,
I thought about that.
Yeah,
too.
it reminded me of the scene where Larry runs through the town with the radio. And then, so eventually the tomatoes escape. They land underneath this, it looks like a large, like a beanstalk or maybe a weird vine or tree. And then this bizarre vampiric squirrel, I guess, is what it comes down and kidnaps the girl tomato.
It's a very odd scene.
It is. It's a very odd scene, so that's where the puzzling aspect of the game starts. And one would assume that you are tasked with trying to eventually rescue your girl tomato. So, Boat, out of the gate, what were your initial thoughts on this wacky thing?
I thought the intro was very well done.
Yeah.
It's one of the best animated intros that I think I've ever seen on the Amiga in terms of, it really looks like a cartoon. There's a ton of frames in there. I thought that it was a little bit jarring the way that the intro segues directly into the action. And one thing you didn't talk about was that each one of these levels, there's really two parts to this game. There's the puzzle part, which is I'd say like 99% of the introduction is like 1% of the game. And then you've got the puzzling part, which is like 95% of the game.
Yeah.
But then you've got the remaining 4% of the game, which is a weird like platforming type level where you bounce your tomato on this vine, on various parts of the vine. And it's almost like it's not side scrolling. It's just like a platformer where you just bounce your tomato to the next thing.
Yeah, that's the very beginning, and I only got to that area at the very beginning, and I will say that was an odd way to start the game. I was like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah. And so that it was a little bit jarring to go from, okay, I'm watching the intro and then I'm playing the game. But then as soon as you get the handle of the controls on that, you were like, well, that wasn't really even the game at all. That was just some weird way of introducing like this set of levels. But anyway, all that said, once you get into the proper game itself, what do we have here? We've got a game that is a physics puzzler that gives you no direct control over the lead character. So what you're doing in this game is you are setting up different items in the environment that your tomato interacts with to progress from the beginning of the stage to the end of the stage. What are these things? You've got a fan, you've got a platform, you've got a jack in the box, and you've got a block. It's basically just like a wooden cube. Okay. And so the idea is that you launch your tomato into the air by pressing a button. Your tomato is launched up in the air, and then at that point has to, take to the wind thanks to the fan. So you have to set up the fans in a specific way to push the tomato from left to right to get to the end of the stage. In the tomato's way, there are lots of different baddies. There are things that there are static objects in the environment. There are changing things in the environment. Depending on what stage you're on, these things might be random or they might be on a pattern. I guess everything is sort of on a pattern. But at the end of the day, you are setting things up in the environment and you're trying to time things exactly right so your tomato survives its trip across the screen. That's the game in a nutshell.
Right. Now, right out of the gate, so when you're into a game like this, there are certain things you need. And one of the things you need is good tunes and good sound. And this, I will say, of the levels I got to, and I'm not going to lie and sit here and say I beat the game. I got about, 9 levels in. And then I watched some videos of some other people doing much better than me. I thought the tunes were real good. I love the art style in this. It's a very attractive. You're always going on about the bright color stuff. It's got all that stuff. And it's a good looking game. I mean, it doesn't have to be super complicated, but it looks good. The environment changes. The game itself, I don't know if I've ever played a puzzle game quite like this. It's real, like you said, it's odd to not have really any control. I mean, I guess sort of like a Lemmings is sort of the same, but you have direct control of the Lemmings. This guy, you literally just kind of smack him around and shoot him places and bounce him places.
Well, you don't have direct control over the Lemmings. That's the point.
Well, I mean, you could give them jobs, is what I'm saying. That's what you say. To a certain degree, you have some control over them. Whereas this guy, you have no control over them. He just
yeah. In this game, basically what you do is you set up there's a game called The Incredible Machine.
Yeah.
And there's a million games like this. I've played a ton of games like this on PC.
Oh, yeah?
These games are a dime a dozen. What makes Bill's Tomato game different is, number one, it's on the Amiga, so that's why we're talking about it. And number two is that you do have sort of a friendly character. I think that this game did itself all kinds of favors by making the main character a named character. He's friendly, he's smiling at you. Whenever he dies, it's amusing. The tomato is probably the best fruit to use in a physics-based platformer because it can splat in so many different interesting ways. Things that I didn't like about this game are that the way that you set things up is very, very fiddly and precise. I found myself having to adjust fan placement by the pixel level. And to me, that's just not fun. I would have rather seen a grid-based system where you have certain places where you can put objects and that will allow you to progress through the level. I don't like games where they just sort of give you free form to do whatever you want, because this is a game that doesn't really require skill to beat. I'm just going to say that. It doesn't. All this game you need is time, because you can work each one of these levels out. All you have to do is you're like, okay, put the fan here, hit the thing. Okay, it didn't work. Move the fan a little bit. And then at some point you introduce the second fan. This is not fun to me. I don't enjoy the sort of iterative trial and error process of these physics-based puzzles. I would much rather have a game like Lemmings, where it's not immediately apparent what you need to do, and you need to figure out, well, I need to give this amount of jobs to this amount of lemmings. And and then you eventually work. You get to the same endpoint, but the way that you get there is different. Do you understand what I'm saying? Does that make sense, Aaron? It's like you don't get better at these levels. You figure out how to beat them, but when you beat a level, it's not like that helps you beat the next level. It's just a different level.
I thought I really liked this game.
Really?
And yeah, I did. And because I'm not a big puzzle guy, and it's not like I did great at it, but I did feel like I was getting a better idea of what I was doing. You know what I mean? As you play on, I like the fact that you could experiment over and over. And I mean, there's a time limit, but they give you unlimited lives until you hit the timer, and you need them to line everything up. I don't know. I kind of like this. I felt like I had a better chance at doing well. I mean, believe it or not, the video you're watching is, but this is from the live stream I did a while back. But I got a lot better than this over the past week. And part of it was just learning the way the game works. I mean, you get some pretty, again, now, listen, I haven't played, I knew about that, the Machine, Incredible Machine, or I've played that a while back, a long time ago. But those type of puzzle games, I don't really play that much. So for me, this is sort of a new experience. So when you said there's a ton of these, not for me. So that's probably part of the reason I liked it more. But another thing was I liked the ability to be able to experiment, and you could sort of beat some levels in different ways, which is cool. I like the different gizmos they give you. Some levels I would bet $1 million that you can't get past, that it's impossible. And then like a couple times I'd have to go cheat to see how someone got past something, and I was always like, dadgummit, you're stupid for not figuring that one out. I always felt bad. So I sort of stopped cheating after a while, because it was, now, once you beat these levels, I doubt there's that much replay value. Of that I will say. But, I mean, the first time around, I sort of enjoyed it.
One of the things that I wish that they would have done is made the password system in this game is really strange. I guess the way this game sort of randomly generates passwords. There were password lists online, but they didn't work for me. I wanted to skip around, once I got past the point where, and again, I really feel like I could have beaten this game. Like, there was nothing in it. Like, it just takes time. You just have to figure out what to do in every level. But once I got to the point where I was like, well, I want to see what else is going on in terms of backgrounds and things. But I couldn't, none of the passwords that I had would work. I wish that they would have given you an option at the beginning to choose from a group of levels, where it's like, okay, you can go to the toy store levels, or you can go to the outer space levels, or you can go to the undersea levels. And that way you can see more of the game right off the bat without having to go through every single level and every single board. That would have been nice. I would have liked to have seen more different. I would like to have seen more ways to progress through the levels that were where you only have 4 things that you can use. They could have made those same 4 things different. Like, give me a different looking fan or something like that, or make the trampoline look slightly different on every stage. Just more visual differences between the solutions I would have liked to have seen. I mean, don't get me wrong, this game is fine. It's a good game. I'm just trying to think about ways that it could have kept me engaged longer as somebody who's not necessarily pulled towards puzzle games as a genre.
You must have been a lot better at this than me, and because you said like you think you could beat this pretty quick, I really did struggle mightily. I mean, when I played this on stream, it's if you struggle with something on stream, you never played it before. But when it was time to actually play for the show, and I sat down with it, I was really infuriated at how difficult it was. And this game is one of those games that really you really have to sit down and ponder your move, and when you do it, and so for me, I did not think this was easy at all. I thought it was actually really hard. I thought, man, there's no way I'm ever going to get very far in this. I didn't even get to level 10. But I mean, they introduced some interesting stuff, like the bit where there's something swinging or something popping up in front of your obstacles you have to get over. Also, sometimes when you put stuff down, the obstacles that move forwards or backwards, like a soldier, for example, they'll erase what you've put down, and so there's a timing element. I think I was never 100% sure that. Don't get me
wrong. I'm not saying that this is an easy game. I'm just saying what I wish that they would have added some things to inspire me to spend more time, working my way through these levels. Because, like I said, once you understand the concepts, because there are only so many items, there's only
Yeah.
so many ways you can get to the end, then you're going to be able to figure it out. But it's just a question, do I want to spend the next 45 minutes of my life, time that I will never get back before I die, to do this level?
Oh, geez.
Unless you can give me a good reason to want to get to that next level. And that was sort of what was lacking for me.
I think there's the big difference right there, because literally I'm just wasting most of the time I have before I die. And so I figure if I'm going to waste it, I might as well pretend to be a tomato for an hour and a half. That's how I like to do it. So your time is clearly far more valuable than mine.
When I look at a game like, do you remember when we played Pushover?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so that game was a game where it's a similar sort of thing. You don't have direct control over what's going on. You set up the dominoes, you push the dominoes over, and things happen. But the way that game introduced concepts and they built on one another over the course of the set number of levels I couldn't put it down. I couldn't stop playing it. And I feel like they could have done something similar with this game, where they could have set the levels up to where they introduce concepts about the physics of the world and things like that, to make you, when you beat a level, you're like, wow, okay, I've learned a new skill here. I can put that to use in the next level right away. But the way that the levels ramp up, it just didn't work that way.
I think part of I probably didn't get as far as you did. But I understand what you're saying. There is, and with a finite amount of stuff you can do. But I think they come at it from a different element than a lot of games by adding just different types of obstacles, I guess. For me, for someone that's not very good at puzzle games, when I had success at this, it made me happy. And unlike you, I don't think I could just run through it and beat it. But I think give it enough time and give it enough tries, I could succeed at a level at a time. And for me, that's a good thing. So maybe I'd put this, maybe what we could call this the platform or the puzzle game for someone that's not really into puzzle games and doesn't like to be frustrated by continuous failure. How about that? And
okay.
This might be the game for you. I read a couple wacky bits on this game. Apparently, now I've read this 3 places, but I can't confirm it. But apparently, when you bought this game, included in the box was a pack of ketchup, which I thought that was kind of amusing.
You probably don't want to eat that now if you.
Yeah, no. Well, go ahead. What the hell? Go give it a shot. I mentioned that this had a release on the Mega Drive, if that's your bag, and so I actually grabbed some footage from it so you could see what it looked like there. It looks pretty good. It was done by an outfit named Tempest. Apparently, this was pretty far along in development boat before it went south on them. But you can see it. There's not a lot of changes in terms of the.
Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty identical to me.
Yeah. And the apparently the release version, I think that you could actually buy this. Don't hold me to that, but I think you can buy this now, which is that would explain why they picked it up. And you can see it's structured a little bit differently, but it's basically the same game. It looks pretty good though, and I'm sure the Genesis could easily handle a game like this, so no problems there. So if you're interested in that, if you have a Mega Drive or a Genesis, it might be something you can look into. I looked some reviews up on this thing, Boatster. Lemon gives this the unusual score of a straight 7. That's a 7. No dot, anything. This got a ton of reviews, just to go over a few of them. Amiga Action gave it an 88. Amiga Computing gave it an 80. Amiga Force, one of my favorites, gave it a 59. Drop the hammer, Boat.
Yeah, I read that review. They did not like it.
Really?
Yeah.
Amiga Format gave this an 88. Amiga Joker, they'll drop the hammer, 82.
So they liked it.
Yeah, Amiga Magazine, 7 out of 10. And Amiga Power gave it an 81, and AUI gave it a 90, and the one gave it 82. So you see all those scores in the B range, range of games. Do we get any hot Discord action on this, Boat?
We did. We got quite a few reviews for Bill's Tomato game this week. Pixels of Dawn writes, "This is a game I've heard for years but had never played. I'm glad I did. It's a simple but enjoyable puzzle game with great graphics and decent music. Placing the pieces with the mouse is precise, and it feels like there are multiple ways to approach a lot of the levels. which adds to the satisfaction when you think you found a smarter way. Unfortunately, where it falls down is the mechanics. There's only a few items which were introduced in the first few levels and then aren't changed for the rest of the game. And this must be the first game where I've had to consult the manual to progress on the level select. But these are small problems. This is fun in small doses, and after 20 levels, I would still like to come back and finish the rest. A solid 8 out of 10. And Frodo and L writes, a fun puzzler with great graphics and enjoyable music. It would have benefited from having more mechanics and items, but what is there works quite well. I've been playing it off and on for the past half year, usually only 1 or 2 levels at a time, and it still works for me. This is one I plan to complete. 8 out of 10. Yeah. If you like puzzle games, especially, physics-based puzzle games, you're not going to do much better than Bill's Tomato Game. I mean, it's a great example of the genre. All of my sort of negativity on it is just based on the fact that it's not my favorite genre, and there are things that I think they could have done to pull me in a little bit more effectively. But don't let those thoughts, weigh on the fact that this is a quality title. It really is.
I agree, and this is one that I much like the last Discord review there. I can see myself coming back to this one and just popping in occasionally. This is one of those, how I can tell if a game gets even if it's not my favorite genre, the way I get a game gets my seal of approval is if I beat a level and I give it the old fist pump. And that happened to me a lot on this, when I would get through something, because you try and fail so many times that it can be infuriating, but when you hit it that perfect time and you get that fist pump, it's a winner, my friend. That's the way I like it. Did you get anything else with Discord, or is that the whole ball of wax here?
That's the whole ball of wax. I do want to thank Frodo NL. He is the Amigos Game Selection Committee member for suggesting this week's game. And, of course, we want to thank the whole committee for putting it to the vote.
Yeah, and I should mention, I did look this up on the eBay Boatster, as I often do. And this thing, I couldn't find any that were currently for sale, but I did see one that had sold recently for about $30 US, and it was in the UK. So I'm wondering how well this one sold, given the time when it came out. Granted, it's a Psygnosis game, but it's certainly not their usual fare. And I don't know if this was a big hit or not. If they were working on a port, one would assume that it was fairly popular, but who can say?
It's hard to know too, because so many people, when I look at the Lemon reviews and stuff, they're like, "Well, I played this on a cover disc."
I saw
bunch
that.
of people had the demo version, and so who knows what percentage of people only played the first however many levels were on the demo.
It's funny you should mention that, because the demo disc was I saw quite a few of those for sale on eBay. So yeah, you might be. I never thought of it that way. I wonder how many people have just played the demo disc on a ton of games. Because I know back in the day, I used to do that all the time when I would pick up the British mags. That's why I bought them. The magazine
and a lot of
was
times
nice.
that
Was a demo
can,
disc.
whenever in my own experience, whenever I play a demo version of a game, I almost always end up liking the demo version more than when I buy the full game. It's like I get lulled into thinking that I'm going to like the whole thing, and then I buy the full version. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really just like more of the same, and I didn't like this as much as I thought I did. But that's the point of the demo, give you a little taste, make you want a little bit more, and hopefully make you not pirate the game. Speaking of piracy, this is during the period of time where Psygnosis, I think this was really starting to affect them, because they devote the entire first page of the manual to talk about how this game is copyright and you shouldn't pirate it. You shouldn't copy it, which is funny, because if you're holding the manual in your hand, chances are you didn't pirate it. So you're preaching to the choir.
The book for this is pretty good too. It gives you like demonstrations of balances and stuff on how to use the
I
stuff.
thought the manual was really well done.
I flipped through it cursory glance because I didn't think I needed it. Maybe I should have read it before.
I read the whole thing. I go on HoloLight and download it. And another thing that I thought was interesting, did you take the time to watch the credits of this game, Aaron?
No.
Okay, well, the credits in this game are actually pretty good. There's actually a full ending scene where I think I wasn't actually able to see what happened, but I'm pretty sure after you rescue your girlfriend, I think that she gets captured again, or maybe Terry gets captured this time. At any rate, you end up alone again, and then the credits roll, and then the first person you hear from is Bill, aka Bill from Bill's Tomato Game, and he's like, "Thanks to Psygnosis for giving me some money to make this game." I was like, man, that's a weird thing to put in the credits.
Yeah, I never watched the ending of this, so that's interesting. I want to beat it. I want to beat an old school boat. I didn't want to know, but That's okay. I'll forget 10 minutes later. Don't worry.
I will say that I watched a playthrough. It took the person that was playing it about 3 hours to get through all the levels, and they did make multiple mistakes. So you can definitely get your money's worth out of this game.
So for me, about 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got it.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this review. I guess it's time to thank some people, Aaron. We got some people that we want to thank that have subscribed to our channel on Twitch. If you care to watch us live, you're welcome to. We record the show live every Friday around 4 or 5 o'clock, really, depending on what's going on in the world. But we want to thank all the fine folks that have subbed to us on Twitch. Jigglebox, thank you. Pints and Amiga, Great Owl G, RMC Retro, Litwarski, Coconut 81, Gary Heather, Macintosh Librarian, Christian Russell, Buck Owens, Retro Jerry, Roscoe 500, Wing Chun Wolf, Rushi MSX, Memories of a Spectrum Gamer, Frodo NL, Wishbone, Gelmit 72, Hermsky, Old B Sturgeon, David Zinaz, Uber Scuba Diver, Tom Servo 1970, Lamatza, Mitsuyama, Still Adolescing, and Amiga Live. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, y'all.
And we should take a second to talk about what's been going on in our Amigos community, Aaron. You know, we have rolling high score challenges that are always going on over on the channel. And this week, there's a new game. This one was suggested by Sundown. It's a new game called Smarty and the Nasty Gluttons.
Yes.
Aaron, have you had a chance to play this game yet?
I have not. No, I watched a video of it to see what it was, though.
You know, I've spent some time with Smarty, and this is a game that I really hope the AGSC picks for us, because this is an example of a new Amiga game that is not crap. In fact, it's the opposite of crap. It's super duper awesome. And I'm not just saying that because I'm in 4th place in the high score challenge right now. It's a great game. Right now, Sundown is leading the charge with a high score, but Barkbit's coming up strong in 2nd place. We also have a high score challenge going on the Spectrum side. The Specky high score challenge for Bruce Lee is still going on. And we've got the action is hot and heavy with Frodo NL, who just recently broke 1 million points in Bruce Lee, which I didn't even know was possible.
I don't know how they're doing this. I tried this, and I don't know what. It's amazing that they're getting to me points. I don't know what they're doing differently than what I mean. I can't
Not
get
sucking
anywhere near
is
that.
what they're
Not
doing.
sucking. Take off, but you know I'm a stud at Bruce Lee.
That's what
that.
you tell me. So that is the high score challenges that are going on right now. And of course, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about last week's Patreon song challenge. So this was a solo guitar number that I put together. It was a Beatles song. Lots of people got this one, of course. Frodo NL, Paul Kitching, The Slow Norris, Bernard Lucas, and Mitsuyama. The name of the song was You've Got to Hide Your Love Away.
I like
Great
that song.
track from the Help album,
Yeah.
which was my first Beatles album. Special
Really?
place. Yeah.
Mine was the White Album, Bo, so I came in looking weird.
That's why you
Yeah.
turned out all weird on
Oh,
us.
yeah, that could be it, dude.
All right. We do have a new supporter this week. I want to
right.
thank Dee Dog for joining the fold. As always, if you enjoy Amigos, if you enjoy our little podcast, you can keep the lights on, as it were. You can help us out by going over to patreon.com/Amigos podcast. We'd love to have your support. And you can join our Discord channel, which is like by far the best thing about our community. It's way better than the show. And there's always fun stuff going on in Discord. We're preparing the annual Amigos Secret Santa celebrations, which are going to be happening pretty soon. So it's always a good time. And of course, you get to be part of the Patreon song every week. If you know, as always, the name of the Patreon song, you can send me an email at john@amigospodcast.com, and I will announce you as a winner on next week's show. So let's take it away, Aaron.
I dedicate this Patreon song to all of you Amiga believers in lockdown over in Europe, England, the UK, Scotland, all around the world. And David Pleasance, when he gets the message you're not going to back another one of his Kickstarter books, he's sitting there in his room with his dizzy nightlight and he's crying. And my voice comes in, pow, in the middle of the night. This is what I tell him. Data Dog Heavy Systems Inc. Bundy Frag Lord Mark Byland. Olaf Hope Hermsky, Jonah A.K. Simulant. Ethan Little, alien breeder, Dave Velociraptor, cowbird boy, Lane Denson, Luke Hudson, John Cook on the bass, Roshi Frodo and El Sol and Sizer Tech Mage Jurgen, Mr. Cola, Daniel Williams, Bernard Lucas, Jenny Denton, Zora Glub, Commodore Kid, Reflection, Simon Lech, Cap'n Crispy Kilobytes and Caffeine, Gary Huther, Free Lunch, Kate Fox, David Pickford Armstrong, Cameron Armstrong, Andy Jones Lobsterminator, 10 Minute Amiga Retro Cast, Bernard Quinn, RMC, Tim Drew, Simon Rose, Joseph Harrison, Kyle Eder, Rob O'Hara, Matthew Larimore, Andy Craig, Sean Zoe, Bart Bid, Roland Burke, Andrew Monks, Joe the Zombie Leaf, Kellon, Alan Kebabchek, Cote, Levelord, John Marshall, Matthew Perron, Ricky Del Rocha, Creepy Dead Boy, Figgy CTZ, The Slow Norris, Stefan Sorgard, Mortensen, Edvin Helen, Blinder 75, Christopher Hassel, Ravi Abbott, Chris Folds, Lauren, Jeru, Graham Vebke, Adam Battersby, O'Brien's Retro and Vintage, Gary Heather, Hall Harrington, Duncan Styles, Tapes from the Crypt, Josh Nan, Adam Bradley, Jonas Rulo, THT, Eric Nelson, Kim Tommy Humbertstein, Daniel Bingston, Brutal Bear Holder, Derek Holds, Jason Warrens, Pixels of Dawn, and Kjol Bjorn Barman.
All right. Well, they judging from the chat, this may not be a well guessed number. This may be outside the musical wheelhouse of most.
Oh man! Speaking of throwing tomatoes, oh man, go call Bill. We need a bushel.
That's and of course we couldn't go anywhere without thanking all the fine folks who've joined us live to watch the show here on twitch.tv/Amigos Retro Gaming. We want to thank first and foremost our noble moderator, Pixels of Dawn Gaming, for keeping the chat in check. He doesn't let anything slide over there. And of course, we got to thank ARG. Thank you for the raid earlier. Amiga Live, Atten, Barkbit, Commander Root, Edvin Helland, Frodo NL, Gary Heather, Jigglebox, Hermsky, Jason Warrens, L. Curtis B, Lotwarski, Macintosh Librarian. Man, we got lots of heavy hitters here watching this evening.
It's the whole everybody, man.
Mitsuyama's here, Mr. Cola, Navi77, Olaf Hope, Peeplo, Picard 2010, R-Typer, RMC Retro, Rob Flack O'Hara, Uber Scuba Driver, V&K Vero Pros, Woody Watson, Z9K9, and ZX Specky. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us and watching the show live. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, y'all. Good stuff.
All right, Aaron. Next week, we are going to... It's Shooter Week on Amigos. It's time to don the tools of the trade, if you will, the machine guns of war. We're going to be talking about dogs of war. Look at that thing. You're ready. You are a dog of war. This was chosen for us by AGSC member Hasifa. Thank you so much, Hasifa. I'm looking forward to Dogs of War. I'm looking forward to going out in the battlefield and relieving some of my battlefield aggression, Aaron.
Let me ask you a question, Boat.
Okay,
Dogs
man.
of War. This sounds familiar. Is this one of these? That's not that war game that we fell off the cliff during the Amigathon, is it? This is it, isn't it? This is like our Vietnam of video games. We're going back. I can't believe we're going back to Dogs of War, Boat.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much, as always, for listening to Amigos. We really appreciate it. Feel free to reach out to us, feedback@amigospodcast.com, if you have anything you want to say to us. And if you haven't,
I don't like
tell
the
a
sound of
buddy.
that.
Tell a buddy about Amigos. Spread the word. Let them know that there is a weekly Amiga podcast where two guys sit around and talk nonsense.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Until then,
Adios.
adios.